the chairs to introduce our first speaker, Dr. J.S. Sehrawat from Punjab University, and lead the chair.
Let's give introduction about the speaker. The Professor J.S. Sehrawat has the major research area of the interest include the forensic anthropology, forensic biology, odontology, and osteology, forensic biology, and ancient DNA studies. He has research collaboration with the Cranfield Forensic Institute, Swindon, UK, and the next Planck Institute of the Human History, Germany, Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, CCMB, Hyderabad, and IIT Roorkee for the biological profiling of thousands of bones and teeth recovered from the abandoned well at Ajnala, Amritsar, India. Come to sir.
Thank you very much, sir. First of all, a very good afternoon to all of you. I would like to extend my heartiest thanks to Professor Gyaneshwar Chobe and his organizing team for inviting me to be here. And since when I joined academics in Punjab University, I had a dream to visit BHU, and particularly I was fascinated by the foreign dignitaries who were visiting the cruise in the river Ganges. So I am very much thankful to the organizing team for arranging for that and giving us treatment like foreign dignitaries yesterday. Thank you very much, sir. So basically, I am an anthropologist by virtue of my birth because I belong to a village bordering Rakhigarhi. So I can be a live subject for paleogenetic reconstructions for the persons who are DNA experts. And I'm trained in forensic anthropology, which deals with biological profiling of unknown human remains which are found in some forensic anthropological or archaeological contexts. So I have witnessed a lot of research regarding DNA, ancient DNA, since last 2-3 days being presented here by worthy researchers from all around the globe. And today I am presenting the applied aspect of that ancient DNA research towards identification strategies of thousands of unknown human remains which were excavated non-scientifically from an abandoned well situated underneath a religious structure in Ajnala, Amritsar, Punjab. So before I start my presentations, I have some declarations. These are some financial and ethical disclosures. This presentation does not promote any or advertise any commercial product, entity or service. There is no potential conflicts of interest with anyone regarding this presentation. And I got financial support from DST sir for conducting this research. Ethical clearance was obtained from my parent institution ethical committee. So we know that identification of unidentified human remains that has remained a very confounding problem in forensics from around the globe, and the persons who are doing forensics, they know it very well, particularly for the discourageously decomposed, fragmented and fumingal human remains. And we also know that recovery of past human remains have revealed significant biological, cultural, historical, and geographical realities about humans in the bygone times. And we also know that bones and teeth, they have been increasingly used up not only to figure out the biological profile of the victim, or you can say deceased, but also in anthropology, the most of the evolutionary history which is being taught in academic institutions, in anthropology departments that are based on the fossils. So this evolutionary history, or you can say phylogenetic history of humans, that has been reconstructed only on the basis of these bones and teeth, and because these are the hard tissues which retain crucial markers in the form of their physical features, chemical markers, molecular signatures, and other things, and they retain their identity even after death. And among the bones and teeth have contributed very significantly to answer a number of forensic anthropological queries regarding prunes, like identity, diet, migrations, and a lot of other things, because of their small size and mineralized status, which make them toughest and to have reduced porosity to preserve and protect DNA also in their dental tissues. Survival and recovery of the mitochondrial DNA from human heart tissues have provided to be a significant tool for prudence, determining genetic origins, tracing ancestry of the challenged, contaminated, and limited biological samples in such investigations. So, before I go for the different scientific methods and techniques which are being used for identification strategy of these remains, I will give a brief account about the Ajnala skeletal remains. And all of we know that mankind has witnessed several heinous and brutal crimes against humanity. And not only this type of dictatorial brutalities, some epidemics and some other reasons are also there. We see a lot of casualties has occurred in the past, and they were buried indiscriminately in the some easily available, or you can say preferred burial sites for that roadside trenches, wells, and potholes, and something like that. So these sites, they have remained the preferred sites for the disposal of human remains by the perpetrators to avoid the attention of international human rights organizations, particularly in the modern times. In one such incident, thousands of badly damaged and comical human remains, along with numerous items of personal identity like coins, medals, bracelets, etc., they were exhumed non-scientifically by some amateur archaeologists, or you can see curiosity seekers, from a disused or abandoned well, ancient well, found located underneath a religious structure at Ajnala in April 2014. So basically, in late 2013, some person from a university in Punjab, she happened to visit London History Museum, and where she read a book named as Crisis in Punjab from 10th of May until Fall of Delhi. And that scholar belonged to that particular area, that is from Ajnala. She read that book, and she was very surprised that the religious structure which we are worshipping on daily basis, that have thousands of images underneath it. So she came back and informed her relatives about the availability of such remains, but nobody relied upon her versions. And even the state authorities, state government, or even at that time central government, they didn't rely upon the versions which were given by the girl on the basis of certain declaration in the book we see that in London. So, but to satisfy their curiosity and to validate the truthfulness of those versions in the book, some local people, they gathered some support to dismantle the religious structure and dig out those remains as mentioned in the book. So after that, not only that book, but there were a lot of other written versions which came into light. That is Punjab Vegetarians and East India papers present in this British History Museum, and some books which were later on written by some other authors. They also revealed about the availability of such type of remains. So it was mentioned in the book that during the India's first freedom struggle against the Britishers in 1857, that started in May with Mangal Pandey revolting against the Britishers, and similarly there was a Kent area, that is Mir Kent area. Nowadays it is across the border in Pakistan. So about 500 soldiers from that Mir Kent area, they revolted against the Britishers. They killed some British officials and they fled from the site. And they came towards the this now present day Punjab, and they intend to enter J&K, because J&K was never ruled by Britishers. So, but when they reached the banks of the river Ravi, they found that river is heavily flooded because huge rains were there. So it is the incidents of, as mentioned in the book, in the July 1857. So they asked from the local people how to cross this river. But instead of telling them to the right path, how to cross this river, with those local people, they pressed against them and they informed the British Commissioner of Amritsar, Mr. Henry Lee Cooper, or you can say Deputy Commissioner of Amritsar, Mr. Henry Cooper, that the persons who were fugitive from that Mir Kent area who killed your officer, they are with us. So they bargained with them with some revenue and some other things, and they were caught in the midnight of, as mentioned, the 30th July to 1857, and they were lodged in Ajnala police station. 245 were lodged in there, and the remaining out there, it is mentioned that 282 individuals were caught, and out of that 45 they were lodged in some other compartment. So next day, it took 1 day. So the day after that, this was Bakari. So they sent a missive to the entire Muslim community in India that on the day of Bakari, that falls on 1st August 1857, that you will be served this meat of humans, not animals. So you are invited to Ajnala. So a lot of people, they gathered in Ajnala, and all the 242 individuals, they were brought 10 by 10, and they were killed with point blank firings, and their dead bodies were put in an abandoned well that was situated near to the police station. So other 45 individuals who fell unconscious in other compartment, that was very short. So they were also brought there, and there was no need to kill them, but they were taken as to be alive. So those 45 individuals were also put into that abandoned well, and the well was filled with the soil, and a religious structure which was predominantly worshipped by the local people, that was built over the periphery of that particular well. And even up to 2014, the people of those particular villages, they were there to take care of the worships at that particular site. So there is a mention of killing of 282 Indian soldiers killed by the colonial forces, and their purposes were indiscriminately thrown into a brick abandoned well. Eventually, after commission of the massacre, citing contemporary socio-political sensitivity of the incident and emergent sanitary concerns. So few skeletal elements, including the teeth and jaw fragments, could survive, because these remains were excavated not scientifically by curiosity seekers, because at that time there was an incident mentioned in the Unnao district of Uttar Pradesh, that Asian has dreamed of being presence of the tons and tons of the gold underneath a temple, and that temple was dismantled by the previous government under the guidance of Archaeological Survey of India. Nothing was found. So fearing that type of hoax, the government authority later came into action, and nobody relied upon that. And so the curiosity seekers, the local amateur historians, they dismantled the religious structure. And how the religious structure was dismantled, it is a very serious issue, particularly in case of India, where to touch the religious sentiments is just like landmines. So because the religious structure was built in 1857, and it was so badly damaged that the chairman of that Sikh Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee, he deserved it fit that you first built my new Gurdwara and then you can dismantle. So a new religious structure was built and the holy book that was shifted to that new place, and this old structure was dismantled. So this was the old structure, and the better thing was that these people they took the photograph and videography of the entire exhumation process, though carried out non-scientifically, but those somebody advised them that you take the photographs. These photographs were provided by those curiosity seekers, or you can say amateur historians. So, this was the structure, and this was the new structure. And before starting excavation of that proposed well, all religious Dharm Sabha was organized. The people from all religions, because the soldiers were supposedly become, as mentioned in the book, they were the soldiers of 26 Native Bengal Infantry Battalion, in which the soldiers from eastern UP, Bengal, Bihar, Odisha, and some northeastern states were employed at that time. Even today, there are some Gorkha regiment, Jat regiment, and some specific regiments are there where people from some those ethnic groups are supposed to be employed. So all religious Dharm Sabha was organized, and this after digging up to 9 to 10 feet, the periphery of the well was found. As the same was mentioned in the book, that you will find the periphery of the well, and this is the broken wall, shows that the dead bodies were brought from this side, and this was mentioned in the book. So everything was really revealed as mentioned in the book, and this is the well which is present these days after excavation. So nowadays this monument stands over the well. So there is some other history. Alam Beg was the Mangal Pandey of that particular battalion. Basically, he was the group leader of that battalion, but he somehow managed to survive. But that is a separate history that will take a lot of time. So they will not allow me to take such time. So I will discuss some. You can discuss with me who was Alam Beg and how did. So these were the commingled and badly damaged human remains of multiple individuals which were recovered from the well. And presently, all these remains are housed in my laboratory. I am the sole overseer of these remains. So I will tell also, because after much media hype and pressure from the mass media and print media, they were forced to employ some person for biological profiling of these remains, or you can say identification of these remains. Who were these persons? Whether these persons were local or non-local to the site. So this is the you can see the extent of badly destruction caused by those persons, because they were not trained archaeologists or anthropologists or forensic experts on how to excavate the human remains. So they indiscriminately exhumed out the remains. Because some belongings which were of gold, they were also found along with these, because those soldiers, they happened to keep some belongings of their near and dear ones in their pockets, and they were killed at that time. So those gold items were also being found. So those persons from that particular village, they were more interested in those gold items or coins and medals instead of the skeletal remains. So these are some more pictures which show the badly damaged nature of these. This is the treasure for us. I explained that why teeth are important for us, because in such situations where the remains are so badly damaged, in such situations teeth have proved a very significant forensic evidence for establishing the identity of these remains. So these were some impregnated evidences of the most heinous or crime or brutality committed against humanity by the colonial rulers, because during the excavation exhumation, rain was there, and this picture was taken by those people. You can see the multiple leg bones, skulls, and foot bone. They are found impressed. So after these media hypes, they contacted the anthropology department, and they asked us to take the possession of these remains for biological profiling. Just for the sake of completion of formalities, they didn't provide even a single penny of money to us. So all of you know that research is impossible without some funding. So I along with my scholars, we visited the site, we segregated the remains which can be used for the forensic identifications. So you can see the skeletal debris which were presented at the site, because they remained there for 4 or 5 months even after their exhumation by those curiosity seekers. So we segregated the long bones, teeth, skulls, and to other. So right now we have more than 9,420 teeth with us, belonging to 282 individuals. So these are the teeth, and you can see the condition of the teeth. Almost all the jaw fragments have the third molar, means all of them they are adults. And you can see the conditions, none of that dental pathology, dental caries and wears, they are negligible. I will discuss this later on. So you can see the third molar, even all of you are sitting here, somewhat of in the upper or lower jaw, some of the teeth may be carried. But these persons, they were at very sound health, dental health. These were the other remains. So when the remains were exhumed out, a lot of people, a lot of local historians and some people, they came forward to opine about the identity of these remains. First, that I have discussed that these remains belong to the victims of those people who were killed in 1857. So this was the first hypothesis, and for that written records are available there. So these some amateur historians, they provided that these remains belong to the victims of Hindu, Muslim victims who were killed during the India's independence on 15th August. That Hindus and Muslims, they killed among themselves, and these remains belong to the those persons. So local historians and local Punjab intellectuals, they believe that these remains do not belong to the 1857 incident, for which the written versions are available, written records are available. They want to discuss, they want to share, declare. I received a lot of calls from the high dignitaries that you declare these remains to the incident of 1947, not to 1857. So I said, I will disclose only what the data and science will tell. So some other versions are under this, that this well was used for as ceremonial human sacrifices for disposing of those remains. There were also some hearsay theories about this, and some other persons, they say that this was a common burial site by the criminals and even by the state authorities, by the colonial rulers, not for the disguise purposes. So these were the 4 or 5 versions which came forward after the exhumation of these remains. So our task was to identify these remains, whether these persons were local or non-local to the site. Second, if they were non-local to the site, then to whether these persons belong to the regions of Indian states, which was mentioned in the book, that these persons belong to the Eastern UP, Bengal, Bihar, Odisha, and Jharkhand, and some northeastern states. It was mentioned in the book. At that time, Jharkhand was not there, so it was mentioned that these people belong to those regions. So our task was to whether they were local or non-local to the site, or what was their biological identity. So our task was very difficult. So we instead of depending upon those hearsay versions and theories, we employed objective scientific analysis which were needed for this identification. So for that purpose, we employed these forensic anthropological methods, radiological examination, like bulk to area ratio, elemental analysis, C418 AMS carbon dating, stable isotope analysis, and lastly the ancient DNA analysis. So these forensic anthropological, elemental, and these stable isotope, these techniques, they give the protective identity of these images. So for to confirm or negate the identification done by these different methods, we carried out the ancient DNA analysis of the few of the samples from that assemblage. So I will briefly discuss each and every method which we have used, because as mentioned in the ADNET scope, and we are also to use the other technologies. So I will discuss them. First of all, I will discuss other technologies, then I will discuss DNA fingerprinting. So forensic anthropological examination revealed that maximum number of individuals were 246 against 282, which was mentioned in the book. So which was counted from the count of the mandibular molars only. So where were the remaining persons? So positioning of the skeletal remains and uh, their mm, mm, photographs, images which is presented by those persons in the soil sediment indicated that dead bodies were thrown from the top of the well at one time. Presence of the third molar in majority of the jaw fragments identify the victims as adults. Indentation of the ear of the make and picture of twin Victoria indented on the required points and medals corroborated that remains belong to the reported incident of 1857. And none of the points or medals had the year mentioned after 1856. So the average skeletal height was 167.2 centimeters, which is shorter than the average height of the present-day locals. Because present-day locals, particularly in Amritsar regions, which is bordering Pakistan, and they resemble the Pashtun-like body, physique, and dimensions. So the average height was that it is much lesser than the local people. Negligible number of dental pathologies in that case implied that the victim had good dietary habits, sound dental hygiene, and unstressful childhood, which is expected from the soldiers. Extrinsic brown, blackish brown, and reddish stains were suggestive that tobacco smoking or bitumen chili, and which is same, which is commonly present in the present-day population mentioned in the book. So these were some coins and medals which were required from the site, and each of everyone has these ears of the make and picture of Queen Victoria, which is indented on the both coins and medals. And these were some personal items which were kept by, which was found along with the remains. So these raised the question why these things which were commonly used by females in India, they are found with remains. So it was established that these things were in their pockets. So this is one of the points. It is mentioned the year of 1840 and East India Company, and the picture of Queen Victoria is there. So these were some skulls. We have right now about 100 skulls with them, intact human skulls. So all of these skulls have these chromatic signature in the frontal as well as temporal part of their skulls, part of their part, and we have analyzed them from different angles, from the coloration pattern and whether this chromatic signature were ante-mortem or post-mortem in nature, because it may be the reason that those persons who were exhumating the remains, they must have caused these injuries to their frontal portion. So the distinctly similar gross or irregular features of the few intestines reveal that victims of the different age groups and geographical activity. You can see from their anatomical structure as well as their morphologies that these people belong to at least two different age groups and different affinities. Majority of the intestine skulls had toponic as well as chromatic signature on their frontal and temporal portion. That might be because of close range mosquito firings or non-scientific exhibition. So we examined microscopically as well as it. So though few of them they were post-mortem, but majority of these injuries were ante-mortem in nature. So we published that, and we have also published a paper regarding this forensic anthropology in investigation of crime against humanity and global dimension. We compared the Ajnala massacre with different such type of cruelties committed around the globe. So we carried out non-metric dental examination. Some of them you may be aware about these things, but I will not discuss. But I am showing this picture that we carried out some non-metric dental examinations in this, particularly in three major subdivisions of humankind. So you know that the persons who are taught or who are expert in forensic anthropology, they know that the dental features are quite different in different population groups, particularly the three major subdivisions of mankind. We calculated the frequencies of different these non-metric dental traits in them. So we examined about 11 group of these non-dental traits and compared with their frequencies already published in literature with Western Eurasian, Sub-Saharan African, and Northeastern people. And out of 11 dental features evaluated for which population frequencies exist, about 72.7% they exhibited frequency recognizable higher or lower than the three major population subregion of mankind. The non-metric dental traits examined this sample by and large have frequency that are relatively unique. So we Indians are the persons who may be from the dentistry, they know that we Indians represent a very unique type of non-metric dental traits because we are accustomed to different types of diets and it may be the genetic disease also. So while this per se doesn't allow us to identify these remains as belonging to Indian subcontinent, it does reaffirm findings from our other research that allude to Indians exhibiting a relatively unique frequency for non-metric dental traits compared to other. At least these people were Indian. So we published that. We also carried out the odontometric sex estimation of these persons, and we carried out a lot of measurements and of those people and the persons of the present day population who were from these particular states and who were inhabiting in and around the tri-city of Chandigarh, Panchkula, and Mohali. So the persons who reported to the hospitals for their routine dental checkup. So we carried out the dental measurements in those persons also, and we developed some regression equations and distributed functions and applied those regression equations for the identification, or you can say determination of sex of these persons. So we found that majority of the persons were males, though about 6 to 7 persons they had dental characteristics resembling to females, but that can be answered from further genetic analysis. So we also carried out an elemental composition analysis of the different some of the teeth. About more than 700 teeth were WDX with the help of WDXR in our central instrumentation laboratory facilities are there. So we carried out the elemental composition analysis of these remains, and also from the modern people belonging to that particular regions. So and again developed some regression equations and distributive functions and applied to these remains, and found that you will find that most of the individuals they were in the age range of from 19 to 52, and the majority of them, 94%, they were identified. 92% were males and 2 were females. So we also carried out some dental pathologies. So on the basis of dental pathologies which were identified and which, their frequencies were calculated in about more than 5,000 of these teeth, because the remaining teeth were not used. So only 5,000 to the remaining they were processed for some other analysis with some international and national laboratories. So we that time we had only 5,001 and something teeth. So we carried out those pathological analysis, and we compared the frequencies of dental pathology with the international publications with those military samples like Napoleon's army and some German soldiers. So we compared that, and from that also that the soldiers had access to quality of life, and they had lesser frequencies of these dental pathologies. We also identified some personalized or some occupational habits, some personalized habits, and we also mentioned that these for some persons were extrinsic signs of these blackish brown or reddish brown stains, which were suggestive of the betel nut, wood or pan masala chewing. That is a habit which is prevalent among the inhabitants of these reported in these states even these days. But betel nut chewing was commonly practiced in South Asia and Oceania since several thousand years back. So most stains were non-metallic in nature and are commonly found in people addicted to these things. So betel nut chewing leaves extrinsic reddish brown stains on the tooth crown, whereas the intrinsic signs are usually pinkish, grey, yellow, blue, etc. So these were some signs. So not finally, but after that we carried out the stable isotope analysis. So before that we carried out the NCD analysis. So for that purpose, I contacted Dr. Neeraj from BSIB and Dr. Thangaraj from CCMB, and later on Professor Gyaneshwar Chobe for carrying out for confirming or negating the findings which we have done from some other forensic anthropological methods. For that purpose, 50 teeth were successfully analyzed for this NCD analysis, and that was the dedicated NCD lab at BSIB Lucknow. So already published mtDNA database was used to select the mtDNA specific diagnostic variations, and 115 such variations were chosen to assign each sample to a specific population, and the mitochondrial haplogroups were manually assigned based on the combination permutations. These selected variations were further amplified and genotyped using standard protocols and genetic tools, and all the haplogroups uh, were considered in belonging to a single population, and state-wise frequencies of haplogroups were also obtained from the published sources. At least 13 haplogroups were obtained, and majority of the samples fell in the macro haplogroup, and with further sub-haplogroup classification found some rest duration specific haplogroups HV0E, U3, and U7. M39, which is widely spread in South Asia, was the most frequent haplogroup, followed by the sporadic R32 haplogroup, which is sporadically present but substantial presence in the gangetic plain populations. And both of these observations were autochthonous to the South Asia. So West Asian genetic component follows a collineal pattern in South Asia. So to pinpoint the relatedness of Ajnala samples, the observed haplogroups were classified to their regional affiliation. Population native to Punjab, in and around Punjab, or to consider that particular site, they carried significantly higher West Eurasian maternal ancestry than the population of gangetic plain populations. So the regional haplogroup spectrum of Ajnala samples was more akin to the gangetic plain population than the local Punjabi population, which suggests their close affinity with the gangetic plain populations. Then principal component analysis was implemented to the observed mtDNA profile with a database of haplogroup frequencies from Pakistan Indian populations, with a hypothesis that placement of Ajnala samples in the PC plot would be closer to the states of their closest genetic similarities. So Indian populations were found distributed into geographical clines, and Ajnala samples showed again a close genetic affinity with Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, eastern part of Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, Jharkhand, and some northeastern states. These observations placed their most likely homeland near North and East Indian geographic regions, mainly populated in gangetic plain. Thus, the observed mtDNA haplogroup distribution and clustering patterns rejected their local ancestry. So, we published that. Then we carried out the stable isotope analysis. We carried out multi-isotopic studies, that carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and strontium. So sulfur and other these analyses are also under the way. So these multiple isotopic concentrations supported the non-local origin theory of the Ajnala skeletal remains and attributed their affiliation to the individuals belonging to the specific geographical origin, that is Indo-Gangetic plain of India, who inhabited different base geologies. And we are in the process of generating more base geology or isocapes, which will permit the range of states and provinces of the soldiers or squads of the region belong to. So these are some results of the oxygen isotope analysis, and this is strontium isotope analysis. That you will find that the strontium concentrations that were far distant from the local population or from the distant part of the site, that is from this Indus Valley in Kashmir, and it was also lower than these plains from before confluence in Ganga and Yamuna River, but after confluence, their strontium concentration was found belonging to this Indo-Gangetic plain. These were some recently we published the carbon nitrogen isotope ratios about their geographic affinity and dietary status. So, though the delayed intervention by the government authorities and non-scientific excavation led to the loss of crucial forensic evidence of utmost national importance, investigators have endeavored to identify them to ensure the dignified lifespans of the Ajnala victims. We aim to have their lifespans, and I will discuss some limitations. If those limitations are met, then we will be in a more fantastic research work that will help the future generations for applying such type of technique. Most of the techniques, they have been applied for the first time to this Ajnala skeletal, and it is the largest skeletal collection reported from India. And as far as the total number of teeth are concerned, that also represents the largest collection from a single place, largest collection in the world, I can guarantee. Expert-mediated exhumation of the Ajnala skeletal remains would have made the task of forensic anthropologists most easier. If we anthropologists, archaeologists, or forensic experts were involved in the identification, because the government authority did not come into action. So it was the non-scientific, or you can say amateur historians, who carried out the entire excavation. So there were other multiple reasons that government didn't came into action, because nowadays we have cordial relationship with England. Second is a lot of people would come forward to claim the descendants of those freedom fighters. So monetary aspect is there, and other is that Unnao gold stocks, which helped the authorities not to pursue this. So if expert-mediated exhumation of the documents would have been made the task easier. So ancient DNA and stable isotope analysis, they have helped us in confirming the identity of the Ajnala skeletal remains. Because in case of forensic anthropological techniques and methods, some scope is left there. So to confirm or negate those things, we carried out these things. So isotopic data that generated from the Ajnala, it may be the richest data set for human skeletal remains reported from any specific site in India, and we are again in the process of that. So relatively unique frequencies of the majority of the non-metal dental paste considered here reaffirm the previous findings that Indians have unique dental features compared to three major subdivisions of mankind. The notched anterior teeth were most likely attributed to the task of breaking the thread and sting of the four-bone beef grease cartridges by the victims during their military and strategic operation. You know that why Mangal Pandey has revolted, because they revolted against the use of newly introduced pork and beef grease cartridges. So anterior teeth, that is incisors and canines of the both upper and lower jaw fragments, they were highly notched. So that also show their affiliation to the military services. Comparative analysis of the results of the multiple analytical techniques applied to our identification of the Ajnala skeletal remains grossly endorse the significance of dental evidences in the identification of badly damaged commingle and fragmented human skeletal remains, which are required from some these sites. The commingle nature of these are some limitations. The commingle nature of the remains, lack of demographic information of the missing person, because right now we do not have any information about these persons. Unofficially, I have the list of the person who were killed. But we have requested through British High Commissioner multiple times to the British government that please provide us the list of those persons so that we can match. Because the people, the English people, they were very clever enough. So they have 100%. They must have record of the persons who were killed from this part of India they belong to. Because belt number and each everything identity must be there. And unofficially, I have the record. But officially, until unless we do not have official that record about the identity of this person, we cannot pursue further research by collecting the biological samples from those parts of India and to correlate and match with these results. And absence of the non-direct descendants of the report, because once we have the record of the person or from the particular villages those persons belong to, then we can access those villages and we can trace down the families of the freedom fighters, and then we can collect some blood samples and some other biological samples. So these are some limitations which are likely to discourage the positive diffusion of the victims. So thank you very much. So these are some institutions: DST SAR, DSIP, CCMB, DHU, SDMU, the Harvard, Punjab University, California. I have collaboration with a lot of institutions: California State University, University of Manchester, University of Oklahoma, Cranfield University, Newfoundland University, Canada, National Institute of Human History. So basically, regarding, I will give one minute over. I received an email from my friend from UK, Nicholas Marcos Grant. He's Spanish, but he's working in Cranfield Forensic Institute, UK. He sent me an email that there is a news in BBC in UK that a skull belonging to US assemblage has been retrieved from a pub in UK in 2019. So basically that Alambek, who was leading that battalion and who survived the the apprehending by those colonial forces. So he was caught in a remote village beyond Amritsar after 2-3 months. And one Tahsildar who was there in that particular village for some revenue rewards, etc. So he identified the person from the crowd, that who are you? Then he said that not he, the local people said that he was the person who came flown into the these waters of the river Ravi, and he is living in the village Ravi. So he was taken back to the Amritsar, and he told the entire story. Then he was court-martialed, and and when the Queen Victoria came to Islamabad in September 1857, so he was gunned down with a bullet in Islamabad, and his skull was given as a presentation as a trophy to the Queen Victoria, and that skull was there in the British officials, and a person who retired from that office, he carried out that skull with him. So there was a slip in the orbit of that skull that mentioned that this person is Alam Beg, and he belongs to that particular incident in India, because Britishers ruled entire world. So they had kept a number of skulls in their possession. So that skull, when the person retired, he had a party in a pub, and he forgot that skull in that particular pub. And a person from British School of History, who after retirement he purchased that pub, and during cleaning purposes he found that skull, and he reported this a person who is working on provincial history of Punjab. He contacted him in London that the skull belonging to your area of research is present here. Then that person, because he was not a scientist, he was a historian, so he contacted some persons, but ultimately I got an email and phone number of that particular person. I contacted him. Please hand over this skull to me, because it can prove a connecting link with this image. So instead of telling me giving me that skull, he said that please tell me what that your research tell about the different images. I asked him that you read please go through the Google, and you can read my papers. You will have, but I will not. Then he was with the help of some of my friends from in UK and some other countries, he was asked to hand over that skull to me. So ultimately, he promised to hand over, but he said that you will lead to Kanpur, because that person, that Alabeg, belonged to Kanpur. So he said that you will accompany me to Kanpur for last burial of this person. Then I said yes, but because of COVID-19, everything is now. I again have contacted him, so that he has promised that he will be there very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sehrawat. It's a wonderful talk, and due to time constraint, discussion will be later on during the tea time. So please for the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You are in the books of crisis in Punjab, all of them. You are referring the books crisis in Punjab from 10th of May until fall of Delhi. Right?
Yes.
Fall of Delhi.
Yes, sir.
Fall of Delhi. So in this book, it was written that wounded soldiers to the 26th National Infantry.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you have identified 282 something like that.
246.
So you have got one list also.
Unofficial, I have the list.
So can you identify the others whether they are
Until and unless I receive the official list.
okay?
Because that list may be reconstructed just for satisfaction of my purpose. So I do not rely upon that list.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing such detailed insight with us and highlighting learning the history once again. It was wonderful having you here. May I now request our chair, Dr. Nath, to kindly honor Dr. Sehrawat for his presence with a memento.